ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhagavata Amrita Utsav, organized by the ISKCON Desire Tree. In the next 2 days, we will be hearing very enlivening topics from various sections of Srimad Bhagavatam from many experienced devotees. And it is really our great fortune to be able to hear the nectarian showers from many experienced devotees. And a beautiful shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam describes two results of hearing Krishna Katha from devotees. When we drink the nectarian topics of Krishna and his devotees and his incarnations, as narrated by his devotees, exalted devotees, there are two results. The shloka says, Pibanti ye bhagavata atmanassatam kathamrutam shravanaputeshu sambhritam punanti te vishaya vidoshitashayam vrajanti tacharana saroruhantikam. Pibanti ye bhagavata atmanassatam. Pibanti means drinking. When we drink the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam as narrated by exalted devotees, this is called Kathamritam. This Katha is Amrita. Kathamritam Shravana Puteshu Samhritam. How do we drink? We don't drink through our mouth, we drink through our ear holes. When we drink the nectar of the topics of Krishna, his incarnations and his devotees and various philosophical concepts from Srimad Bhagavatam through our ear holes, there are two effects. One, Punantite Vishaya Vidushita Ashayam. Ashaya means aspiration, goal. Oftentimes, the goals of the conditioned souls in this material world are contaminated by desires for sense enjoyment. That's why they are called Vishaya Vidushita Ashayam. Punantite. Those contaminated aspirations are completely purified by hearing Bhagavatam from devotees. Purification of our aspirations. The second result is Vrajantita Charana Saroruhantikam, and we will be able to attain the lotus feet of Krishna very easily by nourishing ourselves through the vibrations of Srimad Bhagavatam coming from devotees. So these are the two effects described in the second canto shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is such a divine transcendental literature that is recommended specifically by several Vaishnavas for the upliftment of the entire humanity. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself says, he gives his 5 conclusive opinions. The 5 conclusive opinions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are very beautifully described in this one beautiful shloka from Chaitanya Matta Manjusha commentary by Srinath Chakravarti. The shloka says, Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayastadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargenaya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumarto Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhormatamidam Tatradara Napara. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajeshatanayah. The first thing that Mahaprabhu emphasizes is our Aradhya Bhagavan, our supremely worshipable Lord is Krishna, who is the son of Nanda Maharaj, Vrajeshatanayah. Second, Tad Dhama Vrindavanam. The first thing is our worshipable Lord is Krishna and the supreme spiritual abode is Vrindavan Dham, Tad Dhama Vrindavanam. Third is the supreme worship of that supreme Lord in that supreme abode is done by the gopis of Vrindavan. The gopis of Vrindavan are the supreme worshippers of Krishna. They are the greatest devotees of Krishna. Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Yakalpita. Vrajavadhus, the Vraja gopis are the greatest devotees of Krishna. Fourth, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramana Mamalam. The topmost evidence is Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the spotless authority. Pramana Mamalam. And Prema Pumartho Mahan. The fifth item is Prema, attaining Krishna Prema. or love for God is the ultimate goal of our human life. So Mahaprabhu emphasized these 5 things. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor matamidam tatradara napara. If Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is directly the Supreme Lord Krishna, is emphasizing on these 5 items, we need to give utmost importance to these 5 items. Krishna, Vrindavan, Gopis, Srimad Bhagavatam, and love of Godhead. And interestingly, a description of all these 5 items are there in Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasized the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also emphasized the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 64 limbs of devotional service. Rupa Goswami very wonderfully described the science of bhakti in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he also gave that there are 5 potent forms of devotional service. The 5 potent forms of devotional service are Srimad Bhagavatam, then deity worship, then Vaishnava Seva, then holy name, and holy dham. So these are most 5 effective and potent forms of devotional service. And interestingly, this Srimad Bhagavatam contains descriptions of all the 5 potent forms of devotional service. Thus Bhagavatam is a very important, significant aspect of the whole practice of spiritual life for a sadhaka. So Bhagavata Shravana, or hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, studying Srimad Bhagavatam, speaking Srimad Bhagavatam is of utmost importance for all the Vaishnavas. So we have seen the recommendation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have seen the recommendation of Rupa Goswami, and even Sanatana Goswami also emphasized the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sanatana Goswami offered prayers to Srimad Bhagavatam. He says that Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidhvantodita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. In these 2 beautiful shlokas, Sanatana Goswami is glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam and offering his prayers to Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha. All the Shastras, if they are compared to a big ocean, and if you churn the ocean, the cream that comes out is Srimad Bhagavatam. Once the Devatas and the demons churned the milk ocean and nectar came out. Similarly, if you churn all the Shastras, the cream or the nectar that comes out of it is Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha. Shastra Abdhi. Shastra means scriptures. Abdhi means ocean. Piyusha means nectar. The nectar that comes out, the essence of all scriptures, is Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha. Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha. Sarva Vedaika Satphala. All the Vedic literatures are compared to a desire fulfilling tree, and Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to a ripened fruit of that desire tree of Vedic scriptures. Sarva Vedaika Satphala. Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya. So Bhagavatam constitutes of all kinds of important jewel-like conclusive truths, Siddhanta, philosophical points. Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. And Bhagavatam gives the direction to the entire humanity. Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. It actually directs the misdirected civilization of humanity. And Sarva Bhagavata Prana. And Bhagavatam is the life and soul, prana, of all the devotees of the Supreme Lord. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidhvanto Ditaditya. Bhagavatam has descended like a sun that can dissipate the darkness of this Kali Yuga. Sri Krishna Parivartita. What is Srimad Bhagavatam? Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is the book form of Krishna. When Krishna went back to his abode, in Bhagavatam 3rd chapter, 1st canto 3rd chapter, it is mentioned, Krishne Swadhamopagate Dharma Gnanadibhisaha Kalau Nashtadrishamesha Puranarko Dhunodhitaha. Krishna went back to his abode after completing his manifest pastimes, and when Krishna went back to his supreme spiritual abode, then Krishna again descended on this planet in the form of this book, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is Sri Krishna Parivartita. It is Krishna who has come back in the form of a book. When Krishna descends in the form of a tortoise, he is called Kurmavatar. When Krishna descends in the form of a fish, he is called Matsyavatar. When Krishna descends in the form of a small dwarf Brahmana, he is called Vamanavatar. When Krishna descends in the form of a book, he is called Srimad Bhagavatam, Granthavatar. So Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Bhagavatam is our friend. Bhagavatam is our companion. Bhagavatam is our relative. Bhagavatam is our guru. In this way, Sanatana Goswami glorifies Bhagavatam in various ways. He says, Madeka bandho mat sangin madguro man mahadhana mannistaraka madbhagya madanandana mostute. He says, Madeka bandho, Bhagavatam is my only bandhu, relative. Mat sangin, my companion. Mad Guru, my spiritual master. Man Mahadhana, my greatest treasure. Man Nistaraka, my deliverer. Mad Bhagya, my great fortune. Mad Ananda, it's my greatest pleasure. Namostute, I offer my obeisances unto that Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, Sanatana Goswami also emphasizes on the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is the life and soul of all devotees of Krishna. Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada has gone to the western countries along with the Srimad Bhagavatam as the treasure. He says that Bhagavatam is going to the western world and I am accompanying Srimad Bhagavatam as a humble servant. This is the consciousness of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada has commented on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and with this knowledge of Bhagavatam he went to the western countries to spread the knowledge of spiritual knowledge and Krishna consciousness. And Bhagavatam has been compiled by the literary incarnation of the Supreme Lord, that is Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva has written so many scriptures and he was not very satisfied with his writing. So Bhagavatam is, Vyasadeva is not totally satisfied, or he did not feel complete at his heart after writing so many literatures. He divided one Veda into 4. He wrote 18 Puranas, he wrote Upanishads, he wrote Mahabharata also, but still he was not very satisfied. Then Narada Muni came and instructed him, Oh Vyasadeva, write Srimad Bhagavatam in such a way that the Supreme Lord, Krishna, his incarnations and his devotees are vividly glorified. And you also should emphasize on the whole process of Bhakti Yoga very repeatedly, emphatically. So that will satisfy you. Then our Vyasadeva has written Srimad Bhagavatam in such a way that Bhakti Yoga is highlighted and Krishna and his incarnations and his devotees are very wonderfully described. Then Vyasadeva became very satisfied. Bhagavatam is that kind of book that gave the ultimate satisfaction to the author of the book, Vyasadeva. So Bhagavatam is the best work of Vyasadeva, as he himself says. So Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va Parair Ishvara Sadyo Hridi Avarudhyatetra Kritibhir Susrushubhistakshanat. So Bhagavatam is compiled by this Mahamuni Vyasadeva, and Bhagavatam has the capacity to equip a sincere reader, sincere seeker with spiritual knowledge, and the Supreme Lord Krishna will manifest in the heart of such a sincere devotee when he takes shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sukadeva Goswami has spoken this Bhagavatam. Just like Vyasadeva is the supreme writer of Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami is the foremost speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, and Parikshit Maharaj is the foremost hearer of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is Vyasadeva's recommendation, Rupa Goswami's recommendation, Sanatana Goswami's recommendation, Prabhupada's recommendation, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's recommendation, and this is what Parikshit Maharaj had done at the fag end of his life to perfect his life, that Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sukadeva Goswami has spoken this Bhagavatam in a very beautiful manner. Now Vyasadeva, let us see how Vyasadeva has compiled this Srimad Bhagavatam. So Vyasadeva, after hearing the instructions of Narada Muni, Vyasadeva has meditated on the Supreme Lord with a mood of Bhakti Yoga. And Vyasadeva, in his meditation, he has seen Krishna along with all his incarnations, his expansions, and he has also seen Maya and the living entity suffering because of Maya. And he contemplated on the solution. The solution that can stop the Jiva's suffering in this Maya is Bhakti Yoga. So Vyasadeva has contemplated on that solution. Anarthopashamam sakshat bhakti yogamadhokshaje lokasya ajanato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. Anartha upashamam sakshat. Anarthas means unwanted miseries in this material world. So how can this unwanted miseries be mitigated? Upashamam sakshat bhakti yoga madhokshaje. It is only by performing bhakti yoga. Lokasya ajanato vidvams, and people do not know this, that bhakti yoga can mitigate all those miseries. So Vyasadeva has compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. So to inform people that bhakti yoga can solve all your miseries. Basically, the essence of Bhagavat philosophy, essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is we need to surrender ourselves to the lotus feet of Krishna in a mood of devotion, devotional service. So bhakti is the essence. The topmost teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam is bhakti yoga unto the Supreme Lord Krishna. And what is the specific result of following this bhakti yoga and taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam by hearing? Yasyam vai shruyamanayam Krishne paramapurushe bhaktirutpadyate pumsah shokamoha bhayapaha. Yasyam vai shruyamanayam, by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishne paramapurushe bhaktirutpadyate. A feeling of devotion, devotional service unto the Supreme Lord Krishna is invoked in the heart of a sincere hearer. And shoka moha bhayapaha, our shoka, lamentation, moha, illusion, bhaya, fear, is completely vanquished by taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is Vyasadev's magnificent work. And Sukadeva Goswami has internalized this Srimad Bhagavatam. He has heard this Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva, his father and his guru, and he has assimilated it, internalized it, realized it, and he has spoken it out of compassion for all the fallen conditioned souls in this Kali Yuga. So Vyasadeva taught this Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami. Suta Goswami glorifies Sukadeva Goswami in this way. Suta Goswami says that Yahasvanubhavam akhila shruti saramekam adhyatma deepamatitirshatam tamondham samsarinam karunayah purana guhyam tam vyasasunumupayami gurum muninam. Yahasvanubhavam akhila shruti saramekam. This Sukadeva Goswami has completely assimilated, internalized and realized this Srimad Bhagavatam. Sva anubhavam akhila shruti saramekam, the essence of all scriptures in the form of Bhagavatam. Adhyatma deepam, Bhagavatam can illuminate the soul. Ati titirishatam tamondham, Bhagavatam can help us cross over this material existence. Samsarinam karunaya aha, out of his deep compassion on all samsaris, on all those people who are rotting in this material existence, this Sukadeva Goswami has spoken Bhagavatam. So Sukadeva Goswami's heart is filled with compassion for the fallen conditioned souls of Kali Yuga, and he has shared the knowledge of Bhagavatam, although it is very confidential. Samsarinam karunaya aha purana guhyam tam vyasasunumupayami gurum muninam. So Sukadeva Goswami is considered guru of all munis. So when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva was sitting in the audience and hearing Bhagavatam as if he is hearing for the first time. And even Narada Muni, his Param Guru, he is also sitting in the audience and he is also hearing Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami as if he is hearing for the first time. So Sukadeva Goswami has been empowered by Srimad Bhagavatam in such a way that even his Guru and Param Guru are also sitting and hearing Bhagavatam from him. So Bhagavatam is absolute, Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna, and whenever somebody speaks Bhagavatam with so much of love for Krishna, even great munis also get mesmerized by that kind of presentation. And Sukadeva Goswami has developed that much love for Krishna that he could present Bhagavatam in such a way. He was so empowered by Srimad Bhagavatam in this way. And this Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna, as we discussed before. It is Sri Krishna Parivartita. It is Krishna who has come back in the form of a book. And Padma Purana also, other Puranas also describe that Bhagavatam is the topmost. Padma Purana describes how various cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam correspond to various limbs of Krishna's transcendental body. The Padma Puran shloka says that Padau yadiyau prathamadvitiyau tritiyaturiyau katithau yaduru नाभिस्तथा पंचम एव षष्ठो भुजान्तरं दोर्युगलं तथान्यौ कंठस्तु राजन्नवमो यदीयौ मुखारविन्दं दशमः प्रफुल्लम् एकादशो यस्य ललाटपट्टं शिरोऽपि तु द्वादश एव भाति. The shloka says, Padau yadiyau prathamadvitiyau. The first and second cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are Krishna's lotus feet. The first two cantos represent Krishna's divine lotus feet. And Tritiya Turyau Katitau Yaduru. The third and fourth cantos of Bhagavatam correspond to Krishna's thighs. And Nabhis Tatha Panchama Eva. And the fifth canto corresponds to the lotus navel of Krishna. And Bhujantaram. So the sixth canto corresponds to the chest of Krishna. Bhujantaram Dvoryugalam Tathanyo. The next two cantos, 7th and 8th cantos, correspond to the arms of Krishna. And 9th canto represents the throat of Krishna. 10th canto, Mukharavindam Dashamaha Prafullam. The beautiful, smiling, blossoming face of Krishna is the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the forehead of Krishna represents the 11th canto of Bhagavatam. And the 12th canto of Bhagavatam is the head of Krishna. So like that, all the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are compared to various limbs of Krishna's divine transcendental body, spiritual body. So Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Just as we take darshan of the Supreme Lord Krishna, Krishna's deity, from the lotus feet to the lotus face, or we offer arati to Krishna's deity form by first offering the lamp to the lotus feet and then slowly, gradually proceeding towards the lotus face. Similarly, we also have to study Srimad Bhagavatam from the first canto to the last canto. We have to go through the Srimad Bhagavatam in a very systematic manner from the first canto to last canto. That's the recommendation given by Prabhupada right in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, his commentary of Bhagavatam. So, in this way, Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. And there are 10 topics in Srimad Bhagavatam. The second canto describes that there are 10 major topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. They are Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthanam Poshanamutayah Manvantaresha Nukatha Nirodho Muktirashrayah. Atra Sargo Visargascha. Sarga means the primary creation done by the Supreme Lord Krishna. So, Krishna in his form as Mahavishnu provides the ingredients for this material universe. All the 23 material elements come out of Mahavishnu's body and they form the universe. So this whole formation of the universe is because of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So that creation done by the Supreme Lord personally is called Sarga. That's the first topic of Bhagavatam. And second topic is Visarga. Visarga means secondary creation. So Sarga is the primary creation done by the Supreme Lord Vishnu. And Visarga is the secondary creation done by Lord Brahma and his descendants like the Manus, the Prajapatis. So that is called Visarga. So this includes creation of various species and other fine arts and other things. So all the 12 cantos of Bhagavatam are present in, all the 10 topics of Bhagavatam are present in all the 12 cantos of Bhagavatam. However, different cantos specifically emphasize on one topic in particular. So, Sarga is primary creation done by the Supreme Lord. Visarga is the secondary creation done by Brahma and his descendants like Prajapatis and the Manus. And third topic is Sthanam. Sthanam means positioning. Positioning of various living entities in different planetary systems according to what they deserve. So some living entities are placed in the earthly planet, and some living entities are placed in the heavenly planet, and some other living entities are placed in the lower planets. So like that, different living entities are placed in different geographical locations in this universe according to what they deserve. So that creation of various planetary systems is called Sthanam. So Sthanam indicates the geography of the universe. So that is the third topic. So Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam. fourth topic is Poshanam. Poshanam means the protection offered by the Supreme Lord. Even if sometimes the devotees transgress certain moral codes also, Krishna, circumstantially, accidentally, not intentionally. So Krishna is kind enough to protect them and then correct them and then reinstate them in their right position. He is very kind. So that is fourth topic, Poshanam. Then fifth topic, Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Uti. Uti means inclination. Inclination is of two types, auspicious inclination and inauspicious inclination. So we perform various good activities or bad activities because of our inclination to perform, because of how we are influenced by different modes, inclinations. So they are described in Bhagavatam also, that is in the 7th canto. So next topic is Manvantara. Manvantara means the reign of various Manus. So Brahma lives for 100 years. Within one day of Brahma, there are 1000 kalpas. 1000 kalpas are the one kalpa is one day of Brahma. So 1000 kalpa, not 1000 kalpas, 1000 chaturyugas. So one day of Brahma is called one kalpa, and within one kalpa there are 1000 chaturyugas. Chaturyuga is a combination of 4 yugas: Satyayuga, Tretayuga, Dwaparayuga and Kali Yuga. These 4 yugas put together is one Chaturyuga, and it is also called Divya Yuga. So like that 1000 Divya Yugas put together is one kalpa or one day of Brahma. And within one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus. So Manus are the progenitors of mankind. Manus are the rulers of certain portions of one day of Brahma. So there are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma, and each Manu would rule for about 71 Divya Yugas. So like that there are 14 Manus in one day of Brahma. So all the reigns of different 14 Manus of this current day of Brahma, means 14 Manvantaras of this current day of Brahma are also described in Srimad Bhagavatam. That is in the 8th canto of Bhagavatam. The next topic is Ishanukatha. Ishanukatha means the topics of the Supreme Lord's devotees, and of course the Lord's topics also. So they are all described in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam through Sun dynasty description and Moon dynasty description. Then next topic, Ishanukatha. Next is Nirodha. Nirodha means this dissolution or destruction. So destruction is another topic. So the world is created, that is Sarga, and Nirodha means destroyed. The material world is destroyed, and that is also described. That's one topic of Bhagavatam. Next topic, 9th topic is Mukti. Mukti means liberation. And the 10th topic is Ashraya, the supreme shelter, that is Krishna. That is also described in Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam: Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Uti, Manvantara, Ishanukatha, Nirodha, Mukti, Ashraya. These are the 10 topics of Bhagavatam. And these 10 topics are described in all the 12 cantos of Bhagavatam with various degrees of emphasis. And some cantos specifically describe some topics with more emphasis than the other topics. For instance, the first 2 cantos of Bhagavatam describe Poshanam also, Ashraya also, little bit of Sthanam also. So like that these topics appear in the first 2 cantos. Some of these topics appear. So in the 3rd canto, 5th chapter till the 11th chapter, Sarga is very elaborately described. Sarga means primary creation. And the secondary creation done by Brahma and all the his descendants like Manus and Prajapatis. So they are these topics, Visarga topics, are very vividly described from the 3rd canto 12th chapter till 5th canto 15th chapter. So Brahmaji's first son, or first Manu that Brahmaji has created, not first son. Brahmaji has also created some sages also, and 4 Kumaras also, Shiva also. So Brahmaji has created the first Manu, Swayambhu Manu. So Swayambhu Manu had 5 children. Of them 3 are daughters and 2 are sons. So the 3 daughters are Devahuti, Akuti and Prasuti. So their dynasties, their descendants are described in the 3rd canto and little bit of 4th canto. And 2 sons are Uttanpada and Priyavrata. Uttanapada's dynasty is described in 4th canto, 8th chapter till the end of 4th canto, 31st chapter. In that Uttanapada's dynasty, we will see the beautiful stories of Dhruva Maharaj, Pruthu Maharaj, Prachetas, Prachena Barhi, and Vena Maharaj, Anga. So all these personalities we see in the Uttanapada's dynasty. Then 5th canto, 1st chapter till 15th chapter, there is a description, the beautiful description of the Priyavrata's dynasty. So in this Priyavrata's dynasty we see glorious kings including Priyavrata Maharaj, Agnidhra, Nabhi, Rishabhadev, Bharat Maharaj and several other souls. And fifth canto second half, that is 16th chapter to 26th chapter, we see a beautiful description of the structure of the universe, that is the topic of Sthanam, the universal geography. So how different planetary systems are placed, what is the structure of Bhumandala, and how are the 14 planetary systems in this universe placed, and how are the movements of sun, movements of the moon and other planetary systems. All these are described. Hellish planets are also described in the fifth canto. Then sixth canto primarily focuses on the topic of Poshanam, means how the Lord protects his devotees. In the sixth canto we see the stories of Ajamil, Indra, Vishwarupa, Vritrasur and Chitraketu. So all centered on the topic of Poshanam. And the seventh canto specifically describes Uti. Uti means impetus. Auspicious and inauspicious impetus or inclination to perform good or bad activities. So we will see the auspicious inclination towards bhakti in the example of Prahlad Maharaj in 7th canto. And we will also see the inauspicious inclination of Hiranyakashipu. He has demoniac inclinations. That is also there in 7th canto. And we will also see some mixed inclinations in the Varnashram system. In the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the last 5 chapters describe the Varna and Ashrama. There are 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. They are all described in the 7th canto. And Manvantaras we have discussed. So the 14 Manvantaras of the current day of Brahma are elaborately described in the 8th canto of Bhagavatam. Some Manvantaras are elaborate, some Manvantaras are very brief. So we are in the 7th Manvantara now. The past 6 Manvantaras and the current 7th Manvantara and the future 7 Manvantaras are all described in the 8th canto of Bhagavatam. In the 4th Manvantara there is this beautiful story of Gajendra, and in the 6th Manvantara there is this beautiful story of Samudra Manthan, and also connecting to that there is Bali Maharaj's episode where Vamanadeva has accepted all the planetary systems from Bali Maharaj, begging 3 steps of land from him. That is described in the 8th canto. Then in the 9th canto, where the topic is Ishanukatha, so many stories of different kings in the Sun dynasty and Moon dynasty are described. Some of the prominent kings in Sun dynasty are Sagara Maharaj, then Ikshvaku Maharaj, Sudyumna, Sharyati, like the Kalmashapada, so many people are there. And in the Moon dynasty also there are prominent kings like Yayati, then Pururava. Then Krishna is himself born in the Moon dynasty, where Ramachandra is born in the Sun dynasty. So all these stories are described very briefly in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, this topic of Ashraya is elaborately described. Ashraya is there in other cantos also, but Ashraya is very prominently found in the 10th canto. Ashraya means shelter, the supreme shelter. Who is the supreme shelter? The supreme shelter is the Supreme Lord Krishna. So there are 335 chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 12 cantos, 335 chapters and 18,000 shlokas. Out of these 335 chapters, 10th canto is the biggest canto that has 90 chapters. And all these 90 chapters are describing the various activities of the Supreme Lord Krishna, right from his appearance till his final pastimes. And the 11th canto has 31 chapters. All of them are focused on the disappearance of Krishna. How Krishna disappeared, how Krishna's dynasty, the Yadu dynasty disappeared, and how Krishna gave teachings to Uddhava before his disappearance. All these are described in the 11th canto. So 90 chapters of 10th canto, 31 chapters of 11th canto, means 121 chapters of Bhagavatam out of 335 chapters are focusing on the Supreme Lord Krishna. And in other cantos also Krishna comes here and there. So in this way, Krishna is the supreme shelter of all incarnations. Various other cantos of Bhagavatam are describing Krishna's incarnations of Varaha, Narasimha, Vamana, Matsya, Kurma, Parashuram. So many incarnations are described. So Hamsavatar. So Krishna is the shelter of all these incarnations. Krishna is the source of all these incarnations. Right in the beginning of Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the supreme source and the fountainhead or origin of all the incarnations, avataras, is very wonderfully established in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that topic of Krishna is elaborated in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. That's why 10th canto is the cream of Bhagavatam and its ultimate thing. But we should not haphazardly jump directly into the 10th canto, because the 10th canto describes very sweet nectarian pastimes of Krishna that he has done with his dear devotees in Vrindavan, then Mathura, Dwaraka, Hastinapur and various other places. Specifically, Vrindavan pastimes are very elaborately described. Half of the 10th canto is constituting of Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes only. So, if we directly jump into the esoteric pastimes of Krishna without having understood the initial 9 cantos of Bhagavatam and developed sufficient knowledge of Krishna's greatness, we may not be able to appreciate the sweetness properly in the 10th canto. That's why it is recommended that we study the first 9 cantos very nicely and then enter the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. And specifically, Krishna's esoteric leelas with the gopis of Vrindavan are not supposed to be approached right in the beginning only, without having an understanding, proper understanding of Krishna's greatness and his creation pastimes and his incarnations of Purushavataras and Gunavataras, Leelavataras, Manvantara-avataras, Yuga-avataras, Shakti-avesh-avataras. So many avatars are there. So we need to develop some knowledge about all these avatars and understand Krishna's greatness and majesty and grandeur before we enter into the sweet pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. Otherwise, there is a possibility that we might think that Krishna is an ordinary person. So, because the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan in the 10th canto oftentimes resemble the pastimes, the activities of an average human being here. Krishna steals butter in Vrindavan. Of course, Krishna also manifests very exalted pastimes and superhuman pastimes in Vrindavan also. He lifts Govardhan and he kills a big snake called Aghasur. He kills a big bull called Arishtasur. So like that, he kills so many demons like Putana, Vatsasur, Sakatasur, Vyomasur, then Trinavarta, so many other demons that also Krishna kills. So Krishna performs both human-like pastimes and superhuman pastimes also. But seeing the human-like pastimes of Krishna, we might think that Krishna is ordinary if we do not sufficiently equip ourselves with the knowledge of his greatness as described in the first 9 cantos of Bhagavatam. So in this way, the 10th canto is the supreme Ashraya. So just like Krishna is the Ashraya or the shelter of all incarnations and all energies and all the living entities, all the universes, similarly the 10th canto is the shelter of all the other cantos, all the other 11 cantos. Out of the 12 cantos, 10th canto is the shelter of the remaining 11 cantos. And the 11th canto of Bhagavatam specifically describes the topic of Mukti. Mukti means liberation. Liberation from this material entanglement, material existence. In 10th canto, there are 2 prominent episodes, 2 prominent sections where philosophical teachings are presented. So 10th canto specifically deals with the 11th canto specifically deals with the disappearance of Krishna and the Yadu dynasty. And when it is known to Vasudeva, Krishna's father, that Krishna is going to depart and Yadu dynasty is going to be annihilated, Vasudeva went to Narada Muni to accept some spiritual teachings. Then Narada Muni quoted a conversation that happened between Nivi Maharaj and Navayogendras, and that conversation presents a lot of philosophical truths to us. And 11th canto also presents another longest philosophical episode of Bhagavatam, that is the Uddhava Gita. Uddhava, a very exalted devotee of Krishna, he was overwhelmed with feelings of separation from Krishna, knowing that Krishna is going to depart very soon. So Uddhava went and fell at the feet of Krishna and said that I will also come with you. But Krishna said, okay, you cannot come with me, you have to go to Badrikashram and take my message to the sages of Badrikashram. So he said like that, and he gave him teachings of Uddhava Gita for 23 chapters, and Uddhava went to Badrikashram after that. And after that he went back to Godhead also. So this is the topic of 11th canto. They are all centered on the topic of Mukti. And the 12th canto describes Pralaya, prominently Pralaya. Pralaya means destruction, Nirodha. So the material world is created, that's the first topic, Sarga. And the last topic is this Pralaya. 12th canto describes Pralaya, destruction of this world. So Destruction is of four types. Pralaya is of four types. Nitya Pralaya, Naimittika Pralaya, Prakritika Pralaya, Atyantika Pralaya. Nitya Pralaya means constant annihilation, constant destruction that is happening at every moment. Now you see a lot of plants and leaves and trees here, and fruits and flowers are there. So now you keep some leaf here, and tomorrow you come and see that leaf is gone. That leaf would become dry. So means constant deterioration is happening. And you put a flower here, and after 2 days you come and see that flower. The flower is like decayed, decomposed, and it becomes dry. So every moment there is a destruction, and we may not be able to perceive the destruction being caused by the time factor at every moment, but we can see the destruction at different intervals of time. This is called Nitya Pralaya. Then second is Naimittika Pralaya. Naimittika Pralaya means occasional annihilation. Once in a while, means once in a day of Brahma, there is a destruction within one universe. So within one universe, there are 14 planetary systems and various other varieties. So during the day of Brahma, the creation runs. During the night of Brahma, all the planetary systems are wound up and they are merged into Garbhodakasaya Vishnu's body. So then in the next day of Brahma, they again manifest. So this merging of these planetary systems within one universe into Garbhodakasaya Vishnu's body is called Naimittika Pralaya. Then third is Prakritika Pralaya. Prakritika Pralaya means this is elemental annihilation, or the annihilation that happens at the end of the life of Brahma. While Naimittika Pralaya, or occasional annihilation, happens at the end of the day of Brahma, this Prakritika Pralaya or elemental annihilation happens at the end of the life of Brahma. So at the end of life of Brahma, entire universe is wound up within Mahavishnu's body. There are three Purushavatas: Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, and Karanodakasaya Vishnu. Karanodakasaya Vishnu is also called Mahavishnu. So from Karanodakasaya Vishnu, millions and millions of universes come out from his bodily pores as he is exhaling. And Mahavishnu expands himself as Garbhodakasaya Vishnu and enters into each and every universe there. And from the lotus navel of this Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, this lotus sprouts, and Brahmaji takes birth on that lotus, and he creates the planetary systems. So these planetary systems are wound up at the end of day of Brahma within Garbhodakasaya Vishnu's body, and the entire universe is wound up within Mahavishnu's body at the end of the life of Brahma. So these are all. This is the third type of annihilation, which is called Prakritika Pralaya. And the fourth type of annihilation is called Atyantika Pralaya, the ultimate annihilation. This is the annihilation of the false ego of the living entity. Basically, this whole material world is existent on the basis of false ego. Because of false ego only everything is getting manifested. So this material universe is manifested because of false ego, and when our false ego, individual false ego, is destroyed, then we can be liberated. So that is called the Atyantika Pralaya, ultimate annihilation, and this is individual. So when my false ego is destroyed, I can be liberated. When another person's false ego is destroyed, he will be liberated. Like that, this Atyantika Pralaya is ultimately the liberation of individual living entities. So these are the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam covered in 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have summarized the entire Bhagavatam from the perspective of 10 topics and 12 cantos corresponding to different limbs of Krishna's transcendental body in this last half an hour or so. So this is a quick summary of entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So this Bhagavatam scripture is resplendent and so glorious with all these rich topics. So we have given a very quick summary now, but if we just expand into this and go into the details of each of these 10 cantos, each of these 12 cantos and 10 topics and 335 chapters, 18,000 slokas, there is a lot of nectar, there is a lot of philosophy and so many beautiful pastimes and so many philosophical concepts and so many life lessons. And we will also make friendship with wonderful characters in Srimad Bhagavatam. There are so many exemplary devotees like Kunti Maharani, Bhishma, Parikshit, Pandavas, Chitraketu Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and so many such exalted devotees are there. We can make friendship with them by reading their stories, by imbibing the values that they are exhibiting through their exemplary character. We can nourish ourselves. We can relish the whole process of bhakti. How all these devotees are performing devotional service even in the midst of hundreds and thousands of reversals in their lives. How their faith is not shaken up. How their devotion is not deviated. So all this we can beautifully see. We can observe from this Srimad Bhagavatam narrations. And also there are so many nectarian shlokas in Srimad Bhagavatam that gives wisdom in a very compact manner. So one shloka of Bhagavatam contains a lot of wisdom, that if we just remember these 4 lines of the shloka, and at the right time if we remember that shloka, that totally illuminates our perspective of the current situation that we are facing. So memorizing and remembering all the wonderful beautiful shlokas of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam shlokas are like Vyasadev's best form of poetry. Vyasadeva is a wonderful transcendental spiritual poet, and the best poetry of Vyasadeva is found in Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we carry that wisdom packets that are given by Vyasadeva in the form of these beautiful verses, so they will actually guide our life. They will actually illuminate our vision with the right perspective to see various situations in life with proper maturity, with their divine consciousness. That's the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam shlokas. And Bhagavatam has very rich philosophy. There is, you can see the cosmology, embryology, universal geography, and time, analysis of time, analysis of matter, the analysis of spirit. The whole Sankhya philosophy is there through the teachings of Lord Kapila. And there are teachings of Hamsa and teachings of Lord Krishna to Uddhava. Uddhava Gita is there, and so many beautiful songs of separation sung by great devotees are there. There are Gopi Gita, then Uddhava Gita, then Brahmara Gita, Yogala Gita, Venu Gita. So many beautiful songs are there that are sung by Krishna's devotees. Rudra Gita in the 4th canto of Bhagavatam. And there are wonderful prayers like Kunti Maharani's prayers, Dhruva's prayers, Pruthu's prayers, Parcheta's prayers. All these prayers express the heartfelt feelings and emotions and desires of great devotees. What is the most worthiest aspiration that a devotee could have, we can see by reading all the prayers of Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that, Bhagavatam is so rich in its content, and everything that is there for the upliftment of the consciousness of the conditioned souls is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam is relevant not only for very exalted devotees who have the capability to relish Krishna's pastimes. Bhagavatam is also relevant for those people who are suffering in this material world also. Soham nrinam kshulla sukhaya dukkham mahadgatanam viramaya tasya pravartaye bhagavatam puranam yadaha sakshat bhagavan rishibhyah. Soham nrinam kshulla sukhaya dukkham. In this material world, for meager amount of happiness, people are undergoing tremendous amount of distress. Viramaya tasya, to stop that. Pravartaye bhagavatam puranam. This Bhagavatam Purana is spoken to stop those miseries. And yadaha sakshat bhagavan rishibhyah, the Supreme Lord is directly, he has spoken this Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this way, Bhagavatam is nectarian. And on top of it, when devotees of Krishna describe this Bhagavatam, that will have a much more enlivening effect on our consciousness. We need to hear Bhagavatam from devotees of Krishna. Right in the beginning of Bhagavatam, there is this beautiful shloka. Nigamakalpatarorgalitam phalam sukamukhadamrtadrava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. Nigamakalpatarorgalitam phalam. Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. Galitam phalam. Sukamukhad amrutadrava samyutam. Just like a fruit which is bitten by the beak of a parrot becomes tastier. The flavor of a fruit increases when a parrot bites it. Similarly, Bhagavatam is already nectarian, and the taste of that Bhagavatam is increased more when Sukadeva Goswami spoke that Bhagavatam. Sukamukhad Amrutadrava Samyutam. So Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam, drink this nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Rasamalayam, which is abode of all rasas. Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. Muhuraho means constantly drink this nectar. O Rasika, O relishers of mellows, Bhuvi Bhavukaha, O thoughtful people, please drink the nectar of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Like that, an invitation is given to all of us to relish the nectar of Bhagavatam, right in the beginning of Bhagavatam. So, when the Krishna's pastimes are already very nectarian, but when devotees of Krishna describe those pastimes, they become even more nectarian. So Bhagavatam is already nectarian. When Sukadeva Goswami spoke that Bhagavatam, it has become even more nectarian. That's the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we also see that Bhagavatam, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur compares Bhagavatam with four things. Bhagavatam is like a lamp, like the sun, and like a fruit, and like Mohini Murti. So Bhagavatam is lamp because it illuminates the soul. Adhyatma deepam atitirishatam tamondham. So on an individual level, Bhagavatam enlightens us with the necessary knowledge for the improvement, for the upliftment of our consciousness. So when a room is dark, and if you lit a lamp, the room is illuminated. So thus, similarly, when the heart is dark with ignorance, when you illuminate the lamp of Srimad Bhagavatam, then our heart is illuminated. So at an individual level, Bhagavatam acts like a beautiful lamp that can illuminate the soul with the necessary spiritual knowledge and detachment and devotion. And one lamp is sufficient to lit a room, but that lamp is not sufficient to lit the entire house or entire stadium or entire street or entire world. So you need sun to illuminate the entire world. So Bhagavatam is also compared to sun. On an individual level, Bhagavatam acts like a lamp, but on a global level, but on a bigger level, Bhagavatam acts like sun. Bhagavatam destroys the misconceptions of demons and presents the right philosophy, and Bhagavatam illuminates everybody in the universe. So Bhagavatam is like sun that can destroy the misconceptions of devotees. When the sun is shining, the thieves and rogues may not be able to steal. During the night time, thieves and rogues may be more prominent, but during the daytime, they may become little more fearful. So similarly, Bhagavatam acts like a sun that can destroy the misconceptions created by the demons. And Bhagavatam is also compared to a ripened sweet fruit. We just discussed Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam. So Bhagavatam is like a sweet nectarian fruit. Bhagavatam destroys the misconceptions created by demons like the sun. Bhagavatam illuminates the individual soul with spiritual knowledge. That does not mean Bhagavatam is only philosophical or intellectual or scholarly. Bhagavatam also has very sweet nectarian descriptions that are like nectarian fruits. So Bhagavatam is compared to a fruit, Madhura, that is Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam. And the fourth comparison is Bhagavatam is like Mohini Murti. What did Mohini Murti do? Mohini Murti is the incarnation of the Lord in the form of a beautiful woman. During the Samudra Manthan, when the demigods and the demons came together and churned the milk ocean, then nectar came out. And as soon as nectar appeared from this milk ocean, the demons snatched that nectar pot and then they ran away. And the demigods were feeling so morose. Then the Supreme Lord Vishnu took the form of Mohini Murti and went to the demons and bewildered the demons, and the demons voluntarily kept the nectar pot in the hands of Mohini Murti, and Mohini Murti started distributing it to the demons and the demigods. But Mohini Murti cheated the demons and gave all the nectar to the demigods only. Why? Demons are naturally very envious, angry, greedy, selfish in nature. But the Devatas, although sometimes they may also exhibit some of these qualities, but that's very rare. Generally, they are aligned to the Supreme Lord. They are devotees of the Supreme Lord. They are very obedient and subordinates to the Supreme Lord. So they are the qualified people to take care of the universal administration. They are supposed to be ruling all the affairs of this universe. Thus, uh, Mohini Murti has given all the nectar to the devatas and did not give anything to the demons. Just as Mohini Murti has given all the nectar to the devatas and has hidden that nectar from the demons, similarly Bhagavatam reveals all the nectarian meanings and deeper insights to sincere devotees, sincere readers and sincere hearers, and Bhagavatam hides itself from demons or materialistic people. So people who might want to take advantage of Srimad Bhagavatam to present themselves as great scholars or to increase their popularity or to gain name, fame and money and wealth. So Bhagavatam may not reveal itself completely to people who approach Bhagavatam with certain intentions, negative intentions. But Bhagavatam's inner meanings are revealed to a person who has sincere love and service attitude and devotion to the Lord, and who sincerely want to render service to the Supreme Lord and the devotees. So to the degree one is sincere in approaching Bhagavatam, to that degree Bhagavatam also reciprocates, because Bhagavatam is a person. Bhagavatam is non different from Krishna. So Bhagavatam is a person and it's not just a material book. So Bhagavatam is the topmost scripture that can enlighten the entire humanity. So in that last canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, a beautiful shloka comes. So in this shloka, the parampara of Bhagavatam is described. We can understand Srimad Bhagavatam only in the bona fide parampara. Kasmayena vibhasitoyamatulo gnana pradipah pura tadrupena cha naradaya munaye krishnaya tadrupina योगीन्द्राय तदात्मनाथ भगवद्राताय कारुण्यता तत्शुद्धं विमलं विशोकममृतं सत्यं परं धीमहि कस्मयेन विभासितोऽयमतुलो ज्ञानप्रदीपः पुरा. Right in the beginning of the creation, the Supreme Lord Krishna has given the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to Brahma, the creator. And Brahma, in the form of Brahma, Krishna has given this Bhagavatam knowledge to Narada Muni. In the form of Narada Muni, Krishna gave that Bhagavatam knowledge to Vyasadeva. In the form of Vyasadeva, Krishna only spoke that Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami. In the form of Sukadeva Goswami, Krishna only spoke that Bhagavatam to Suta Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And through Suta Goswami, Krishna only revealed that Bhagavatam knowledge to all the sages of Naimisharanya. Like that, in this parampara, whether Krishna is speaking or Brahma is speaking or Narada is speaking or Vyasa is speaking or Sukadeva Goswami is speaking or Suta Goswami is speaking, it is Krishna who is speaking. He is speaking. And Krishna is descending through this transparent via media of parampara. The transcendental teachings of Krishna are transparently transmitted through this parampara for our transformation, to stop our tribulations. So when there is transparency in our transmission of these transcendental teachings, there is transformation. So bona fide representatives of the Supreme Lord present the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam as it is for the understanding of common people. So understanding, we need to make this knowledge accessible and understandable to common people. So for that we need to be very truthful and loyal and honest to the parampara's teachings. So in this way, when we maintain the transparency and loyalty to the parampara, our words are as potent as Krishna's words. Not that we become Krishna, but we become humble instruments in the hands of Krishna, so that he can reclaim the conditioned souls. So by doing so, we perfect our lives also. So we need to be begging for the mercy of parampara. So we should not be proud that we are transmitting the message. We should be very grateful that Krishna is utilizing, parampara is utilizing us in some service to the Vaishnavas. So in this way, Bhagavatam is the divine transcendental literature that is very wonderfully given to the entire humanity for the upliftment of our consciousness. So in this way we have discussed how Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Bhagavatam is the book form of Krishna, and we have discussed the 10 topics of Bhagavatam briefly, the 12 cantos of Bhagavatam briefly, its significance in this 1 hour session. So thank you all very much. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.